Hello and welcome to It Came From 20,000 Podcasts. I'm Gus.
I'm Kaitlyn.
And we watched a movie.
We did. I actually liked this movie.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. What movie did we watch?
We watched Santo versus the Writers of Terror, as directed by Rene Cardona. This was actually the 8th in a series of 13 movies. And we ran into a bit of a problem with this one, didn't we? What was it? What's the problem with this movie? I shouldn't say it's a problem. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. I'm confused. I'm in the black. I'm confused.
Okay, so this is supposed to be like a B sci-fi. Well, I mean, this was a B horror movie, technically, but there was literally no sci-fi.
Yeah, I saw this movie a long time ago. I picked it up from Half Price Books a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, Riders of Terror. I bet they're like demons from hell or something riding on horses or motorcycles.
I'm not going to lie. I thought it was the same thing. I didn't read I don't always read the description of these movies before we watch them because I kind of want to try to go in a little blind.
Yeah.
So I did not realize this. But the thing is, in this 13-movie series, there's like Santo versus the witches, where it's like Santo has to save his daughter from witches that want him to marry the devil. Him to marry the devil? Her to marry the devil. Like, there's some real sci-fi fucking movies.
We picked the least
We picked the
sci-fi
one that's not at all sci-fi. But you know what? I don't mind because this podcast really is more about B movies rather than them being horror sci-fi. I just thought it was really funny that of all the movies we could have picked, this was the least sci-fi movie.
I also didn't realize it was a Western.
Uh-huh.
Like a real Western-ass Western, not just...
Oh, no, like, we're talking like full-on Western.
So we're becoming a Western podcast at this point because half of the ones we've done so far have been Westerns.
Yeah, you're right.
With this and God Monster.
Yeah, you're right. We're only on episode 4.
Yeah. All right, so what did you know about... I'm going to ask you two things. What did you know about this movie beforehand?
Nothing. We've already established this.
And what did you know about El Santo beforehand?
Okay, so let's do a little education about El Santo. You know more about him than I do, by a lot. But El Santo was a Mexican wrestler, a luchador, that was bigger than God.
Yeah. I actually did a paper about lucha wrestling, lucha libre, for one of my classes a few years ago. And a big portion of that focused on El Santo. And the comparison I kept seeing for everyone is like, you can't compare El Santo in like American culture to, you know, The Rock or Steve Austin. You can't compare him to a wrestler. You have to compare him to Superman. He is the Mexican Superman. He is such a huge pop culture icon.
He's like Elvis Presley of Mexico. Like, this guy formed Mexican culture in so many ways and made lucha libre what it is now, as well as film and TV. It
was in over 50 movies. There was a comic series they ran for like 30 years.
And the thing about these films is he did them all masked. Because in lucha libre, you're supposed to wear your mask to be the wrestler. It gives you your identity, and you're not seen without your mask to protect your non-wrestling identity. You become the wrestler when you don the mask. And so in all these films, he still wore his silver mask.
He was still playing Santo.
Yes.
He wasn't playing another character. He was Santo in all of them. He was still a wrestler.
Yeah, they even in this movie say, like, oh, he's Santo. He's a famous wrestler.
Yeah.
Because he was.
And he never took his mask off. He took his mask off. I'm going to contradict myself. He took his mask off once in an interview when he was in his 70s or so.
Oh, he was 66.
66. A week later, he died.
Yes. I looked this up. He did. He had, I believe, a heart attack at the age of 66, and he had unmasked himself for the first time in a television interview the week before. Yeah. It was like he knew. It was crazy.
He was buried in his mask.
He was. There are statues all around Mexico of him. Like, I have his Wikipedia open because I was kind of reading a little bit about him beforehand. And this guy was, like I said, the only way to describe him is like Elvis Presley meets Superman meets Batman. Like,
yeah, he's just fucking huge. Any star in the world you can think of, like, in American culture today, Now he's bigger than them.
He's literally bigger than them.
In his prime, he was bigger than them.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, he had 10 children, too, by the way. I still have
Shit, really?
Yeah, I have his Wikipedia article still open, and it said that. But yeah, no, like, because in Mexico, we talk about wrestling here, and what do you think of? You think of, like, the WWE, you think of John Cena, you think of Take Your Vitamins, whatever.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan. Steve Austin.
This is coming from 2 huge wrestling fans, by the way. Like,
yep.
we go to indie shows, like, we know, like, we watch New Japan, we watch WWE. I watch New Japan. I don't know about you as much.
It's Hell in a Cell tonight.
It is Hell in a Cell tonight.
Heck in a Room.
Heck in a Room is tonight. I'm not sure how excited I am, but hey, whatever, it's fine. We watched Roman Reigns beat down Rey Mysterio. Thank you. But in Mexico, wrestling is like a way of life. It is ingrained everywhere. Literally, you can be in traffic and see a wrestling performance in traffic where you're supposed to, like, tip the wrestlers for entertaining you at the red lights.
I forgot about that. Was in that David Arquette documentary.
That was in the David Arquette documentary. I looked into it more. That's a real thing in some places. Like, wrestling in Mexico, it's your life. Yeah. It is a way of life.
Lucha is a huge thing down there. It's
insane.
Bigger than wrestling ever was in this. Even, like, peak Attitude Era, when, like, everyone on the schoolyard playground was crotch chopping and giving each other stunners and stuff.
Right. That was
about the closest you got to as popular as wrestling is
in Mexico. It really is insane.
An integral part of their culture.
Yes. And it's crazy that a lot of people in the United States don't know much about lucha wrestling, even as fans, because it doesn't travel up northward as much, except for in, like, maybe Arizona and Texas.
The most we would get, like, if we didn't go looking for lucha stuff, would be, like, Rey Mysterio. Or
Pentagon.
Yeah, Pentagon.
Rey Fenix. Those are all, like, those are the 3 big luchadors in the United States right now. But you've got other people, too, now that are really coming out.
The Lucha House Party. There was Sin Cara.
Right. I mean, Prince Puma.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was. Yeah. Before he became Ricochet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Lucha Underground was one of the big ones.
Anyway, let's get off of... we could talk about wrestling for a very, very long time. We talk about it for hours at home.
Yeah. So I'll say, even when I wrote this paper for class, and a big portion of it was about El Santo, I never watched a movie for it. I just read articles and watched a few videos and carried on from that. He was more just some backdressing for it. And my professor grew up watching those movies. And she gave me an A on that paper.
Yeah, she said she loved El Santo. She grew up, like, everyone grew up watching El Santo movies in Mexico. Like, insane.
All right, well, I think it's time we head into this. So we were watching a 2003 re-release on DVD.
Yes, this movie came out in 1970. I looked it up. Yeah. Like I said, directed by Rene Cardona, not Ray Cardona. That's, woo.
In relation to Matt Cardona.
Not that I'm aware of, but maybe. You know it. Okay.
I don't know if he still does that.
He probably doesn't.
He's feuding with freaking Nick Gage now.
Okay.
Sorry, we're getting
off topic.
We didn't even get to the opening credits.
We haven't even gotten to the logo stinger, which was weird, by the way. So, it's released by Rise Above Entertainment, which had the weirdest logo stinger.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? It was like the foot of Lady Liberty, I almost said the Empire State Building, which is why I said Lady Liberty, because I couldn't think of the Statue of Liberty. It's like her foot with, like, money floating around it, and then it turns into the Rise Above Entertainment logo. It was real weird, and I had to write it down.
I didn't catch that, no.
Yeah, it was real weird. I just wrote it down because I thought it was so strange. But, so, this is a Western movie. We're talking, it opens with, like, Western music over matte paintings of, like, stereotypical Western, like, people on the prairie, people riding horses. Cowboys. Like, you know. If you look this movie up, it tells you it's a Mexican Western horror film. Yeah. I don't know how it's a horror film, but it be.
Well, we can, after the credits, we kind of see where I think the horror quality kind of lies a little.
But hang on, though, because there is one credit that I noticed.
Oh, yeah.
That I had to, like, bring up because I thought I read it wrong. So there's, like, this kind of ominous Western music playing. It sets the tone pretty well of, like, spooky Western.
Yeah. Also,
go ahead.
all these credits are in Spanish. The movie's in Spanish. We were just watching it with English subtitles, but the opening credits are still in Spanish.
Right, yeah. This whole thing is in Spanish, so if we missed something, whoops, that's on our fault because we're trying to take notes and read captions. We had to pause multiple times because I was like, wait, hang on, what happened here? But in English letters, in brackets, there's just Frankenstein. And I was like, oh my God, are we about to get some Frankenstein in these fucking movies? But then I realized that there's actually a movie where Santo fights Frankenstein.
Gotta find that one.
And I'm wondering if maybe they used the same credits for all of them?
Maybe.
I don't know. It was really weird, but I got really excited. But no, Frankenstein does not show up in this movie.
Spoiler, sorry.
Sorry. I just really had to bring up the fact that the credits said Frankenstein.
The one thing I could think of was maybe they were combining multiple crews into like a Frankenstein of a crew, but that seems like
that'd be really weird. But
does not seem like the term you'd use in the opening credits.
I just had to bring up the fact that Frankenstein was listed, but there was no Frankenstein.
All right.
So yeah. Oh, by the way, these matte paintings, these stereotypical Western matte paintings, I want every single one of them hanging in my new house. We're getting a house. Yeah. And I have this thing that I call weird cowboy energy. Where I go into like thrift stores or antique malls and I look for things that I call weird cowboy energy, which is just really weird cowboy stuff. And I buy it and I bring it home and I swear to God, I found some weird things. Like, we'll take a photo of my favorite thing.
We'll post some of these on our Twitter and Instagram. Our Twitter handle has also changed. It came from 20K. Pods wouldn't fit on the end, but it's all in the description.
Yeah. Anyway. Sorry, I just had to tell y'all about weird cowboy energy and my love of Westerns and cowboys. I'm from the Midwest. There's no reason for this. I ain't Southern. Anyway, we're actually going to start the movie now.
All right, so we start the movie, and we're at, what was this place?
We're at a sanatorium.
Yeah.
We'll just call it the sanatorium because I'm not going to try to pronounce...
San Lazaro.
Yeah, probably San Lazaro, but I don't know.
I failed Spanish twice. So.
It's fine. I'm assuming. Either way, we'll call it the sanatorium.
Yeah.
They kept calling it a leproseum in the captions, but no, it would be called a sanatorium.
Yeah. So, some guys escape. They get on horses, run away.
They shoot a cop.
Yeah. And we find out at the sheriff's office that those 6 people that escaped were lepers.
Yes, they have leprosy. Which would have been incurable at the time. It's a terrible disease where your body parts basically like rot away.
Yeah.
It's incredibly disgusting. Very contagious.
Yeah, and this is the only part I could really think of as being the horror aspect was, an infectious disease.
Yeah, and the fact that it could spread to the town, which is what they're worried about this whole time. Anyway, so Sheriff Dario, he's our hero. Well, he's one of our 2 heroes, is worried that the townspeople are going to kill the lepers in fear. Because, again, leprosy is so contagious.
Yep.
And it is like a stigma leprosy. Like, oh, they're dirty, that whole thing. And, go on.
We do get a montage of the lepers going around just breaking into places and taking things because they need clothes, they need food. They're taking things to survive. They don't want to hurt people.
Right. And they're clearly kind of scared because they've broken out of the sanatorium. They just want to be free, honestly.
Yeah.
They don't steal more than they need. And even after that, they stop stealing.
Yeah.
And they go to a barn where there's a guy, the only way I could was lazily throwing some hay. He had a pitchfork and he was in just like a pile of hay, throwing the hay back onto itself. It didn't look like he was doing anything. And then when he ran away from the lepers, he ran away up some stairs to nowhere. He ran away upstairs.
That's a pretty standard thing. That's why it's a horror movie.
Oh, of course.
The killer's in the house, run upstairs.
I don't understand that. That's like my least, why?
They're like cows. They can't go upstairs.
Oh, of course.
No, cows can't go downstairs.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, the town is scared, and they want the lepers gone for good, and they also want to move the sanatorium. They're like, why is it even here?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be near a town. Like, fuck off, lepers, basically.
They're getting all riled up, rabble, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Sheriff Dario comes in. He he starts talking to the folks. He also brings with him Dr. Ramos.
I forgot about Dr. Ramos.
Yeah, who tells the townsfolk, like, these are still people. They're scared. They deserve our compassion.
Right.
Leprosy can't be transmitted through the air. It can be transmitted through direct contact or if they touch something.
Right, if they touch you or your saliva or something like...
But you can't get it just by breathing.
Right,
near 'em.
but this is where we come up with the fact that if a leper gets into the town or it goes into a building, they're going to have to light it on fire. You have to burn it down, which was something they did do. This was also a common thing for the Spanish flu. A lot of diseases, you would have to burn everything that person touched.
Yeah.
That's actually a big plot point in my favorite children's book, The Velveteen Rabbit. What? What is that? What did I say? Anyway.
So
they show up. They're like, everybody go home, go inside. If you're inside, you'll be safe.
But some people are like, no, we got to go after them. We're going to do it. So Dario decides, you know what? Fuck it. If we're going to start up a posse, let's do it my way. I'll lead it. He rounds up a group of people.
He rounds up a group of guys because his whole thing is like, look, we're going to search for the lepers. We're going to take them back to the sanatorium. If you guys are going to form a gang, let's form a gang. And he gets a bunch of volunteers, including a guy named Caramino, who is the guy that's like inciting panic among the people. And Dario points him out. He's like, don't listen to that guy. He's just trying to freak you out. Yeah. He's trying to get you to do what he wants, not what I want.
It feels like there may have been some history between these two beforehand. It's like, oh, great, Carmino's here. He's doing shit again.
So they have to go down and they torch the barn and the house that the lepers were in the night before.
They burninate a thatched roof cottage.
They do. Let's see.
And then they go into the woods.
Yep, they ride into the woods and they start searching for the group.
And this is also where we get the main method of scene transition in this movie.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. So every time we want to transition from a scene, it just goes like, and then we have a whip transition into the next scene. But sometimes it's like this rainbow.
It's almost like you're looking through a kaleidoscope or a stained glass window that's really out of focus. There's some weird sci-fi harp music. I call it a harp transition, but it's like a whip pan from that, not from the actual shots.
It's a whip pan through this kaleidoscope to the next shot, but they don't always use it. Sometimes it's just a whip pan from one scene to the other. But
sometimes it's a fade, sometimes it's a hard cut.
But between every single scene, they have a transition, not just like a hard cut. It never makes sense. They didn't do it one time, and I was confused.
It's just this sound is not scary. It doesn't invoke a tonal shift or anything. It's just
like some harp. Yeah, it's like some harp music that
I want to use it for if we ever get ads or sponsors or have to do a break in the show. I want it to be the cut music. We're in the ad break now.
Oh yeah, I like that. Let's do it. Okay.
I also have in my notes here just E. Don't know what that's about.
Okay.
So they go in there. Dr. Romanos is with them as well.
Yeah, Dr. Ramos. It's probably Dr. Ramos, but either way.
I messed. Yeah, Ramos.
Okay. So they don't find them. Also, this is where we get what I call the time crime of this took forever. Them just riding around. They ride into a place, and then literally it cuts to them riding out of the place.
And there's 3 or 4 of these harp transitions.
Oh, yeah. Also.
And the doctor's just hanging out with the horses, even though everyone else is still on horses, and we just keep cutting back to him in the woods by himself. I thought someone was going to attack him or something. Nothing.
No, it's just supposed to be a montage of them searching, but it's filmed in the most confusing, drawn-out way I've ever seen a montage.
There's no music either.
No, it took me
it's just silence.
It took me a good 10 seconds to realize we were watching a montage of searching. Because it made no sense. Also, this is the quietest movie I have ever seen. We're talking all right, it's time to fucking have some dialogue. It is so quiet. It sounds
some dialogue, my child.
Yeah, it sounds like the microphone, they didn't have microphones, and that they were using the camera mics from 10 feet away.
And we had the volume up pretty high.
We did, actually, because I couldn't hear shit.
Thankfully, it was captioned.
Yeah, thankfully, this movie was in Spanish, so we had captions on. But even if it hadn't been, we would have had to turn them on either way. So this is where we learn Dario's name. And Carmen, this is where we meet Carmen, the pretty Hispanic woman that is Dario's lover, girlfriend.
Main squeeze.
Yeah, sure. Only squeeze, really.
Yeah.
And her dad's like, I don't know about Dario. She's like, nah, he's fine. Like, he's a good guy. He's the sheriff. Come on, what dude wouldn't be, like, all about the sheriff? Come on. You know, he's handsome.
He's a pretty good-looking dude.
Yeah, he's, like, traditionally handsome.
Yeah.
He's like, be careful, Carmen, whatever. And she goes out to say goodbye to Dario for some reason. I guess he's leaving.
I thought it was like a transition, like they come back from a date or something. I don't know if he was just outside.
I don't know. Well, she's wearing, like, a dress before that. Then they go out, so they pan outside, and she's wearing a robe now.
Yeah.
Like a pink robe with flowers on it that I thought had bunnies on it. It took me a hot minute to realize it was flowers. And it's like bright-ass pink. So it makes no sense because they weren't in town. They were out of town. So maybe they're going to search for the lepers again. Time does this weird thing in this movie where it just jumps and you have no idea how much time has passed.
There's also a problem that we'll see here in this next scene of whenever they do night shots, you know, like in other movies.
Yeah.
Like when we watch God Monster Video and Flash, you could still tell when things were night because they put a blue filter over everything. This movie is in color.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't convincing, but you could tell when it was night. It was so hard to tell if things were at night or not.
I genuinely could not tell you when it was night. The other problem would be it would go from day to night to day to night to day to night. Like,
yeah.
It was clearly supposed to be nighttime, but it would be a daytime shot, and then it would go back to a nighttime shot. And the lighting was wild.
Not just the lighting, but the camera exposure. There are exposure changes all over this movie. There's a fight scene later on where exposure changes 3 or 4 times in the fight scene.
Yeah, like literally, it's not like it cuts away and then it cuts back and the exposure is different. No, like you are literally watching the fight scene and you see it change.
Yeah.
It's weird. Something tells me, I mean, this movie was made in Mexico. It obviously was very low budget. Something tells me that's just what they had to work with. It felt like they had to shoot during the daytime because they probably didn't have lights.
Yeah.
But anyway, she goes out. She's like, oh, man, I love you, Dario. And he's like, yeah, love you too. Be careful. Lock the windows.
Yeah.
Specifically lock the windows, unlike in Attack of the Shrews. Fuck off windows. So she goes back in, and she's kind of like walking around the house, you know, like you do, in her sick pink robe. And there is a dude in the kitchen. Is it the kitchen?
I thought it was like a study, like an office.
Maybe. Either way, he's looking around, and she's like, ah, she screams.
He's trying to break into their safe.
Yeah, he's breaking in. And he screams. Her dad, who was reading a book in bed, grabs a lamp in the brightest room of all time.
That's exactly what I'm talking about with the lighting problems. I didn't know it was supposed to be night.
Yeah, I had a feeling it was just because he's laying in bed reading a book and she's wearing like a night robe. That I want that night robe. It was like hot pink with flowers. It was fucking, she was stunting.
But yeah, Carmen sees this guy, she shrieks and then falls over.
Yeah, she just like passes out for some reason because woman. This is also, like, the only thing I can think of that's sexist in this movie.
Yeah.
There really wasn't any. Dang. So her dad, he gets up.
Grabs the lamp, looks around.
Then he goes back to the bedroom to grab his gun.
Why would you grab that in the first place?
Yeah, why wouldn't you grab your gun and your lamp?
So he comes out, looks for anything, can't find the bandit because the bandit's hiding.
Yeah, and he looks down. He sees Cameron. Carmen on the floor. By the way, she's in the 1960s pose of like when you're laying down and your arms are above your head, and you're like, oh, I'm definitely sleeping. You know the pose, girls. You know what I'm talking about in the movies.
And then her dad gets shot in the back.
Her dad gets shot in the back. He dies. I guess he did. Yep. The bandit rides off. We have the transition again, and we don't know how much time has passed because Dario and Carmen are out in the desert, and she's wearing her mourning clothes. She's wearing all black, which she does wear through the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Which I can commend because that would be true.
I also thought, I have in my notes here is like, did Carmen die? Cut to Hill. It's Carmen and Dario. Oh, she didn't die.
I didn't think she was dead. I thought she just passed out, like she fainted.
I wasn't sure if she got shot and they just forgot to put the gun sound effect in.
I would love the fact that she was in like half a goddamn seat and then got shot and died.
Oh, her dad was.
Yeah, but she was like actually introduced. She
Yeah.
was like, "I love you, Dario." It'd be amazing. Anyway, so we're not sure how much time passes. We don't know why they're out in the middle of the desert, but they start talking, and they're talking about like, "I love you. We're gonna build a life together."
Yeah.
How scared she is. Just talking about like how much they love each other,
Yeah.
basically. Like that's this whole conversation.
Yeah, and Carmen thinks that the bandit was a leper. Dario says he doesn't know, but it doesn't matter if they're a leper or not. They're gonna be brought down by the law.
Right. The whole thing sets up that the town thinks that the lepers are breaking into places, but the sheriff is like, I don't know. So it turns out in the next scene, because we get that sweet transition again, it wasn't the lepers. It was the volunteers from town.
It was the posse.
It was the posse led by Carmino.
And these guys, even though it's never said in the movie, I'm just going out and saying that these guys are the riders of terror.
Yeah, I'm assuming they are too. And they want to get rich by robbing people. And their whole idea is if there's a bunch of lepers out there, we can use them as an excuse people to think they're robbing people because they've already done it once before. Mm-hmm. We can get away scot-free. They'll have to burn the houses down and get rid of all the evidence.
Yep.
So, we'll just keep doing our thing and we'll get real rich and right away. They then, for whatever reason, know where the lepers are.
Yeah, I didn't get why they knew.
Okay, I'm not crazy. They really just were like, we have to go to Devil's Cave. And then show up at the most soundstage-looking soundstage I've ever seen.
God, that's it. See the wall behind the rock.
Yeah. It was like a cave set, but you could clearly tell it was like styrofoam, like polystyrene that was painted, and you could see the wall behind it that was like painted blue or whatever.
Yeah.
And they go in, and they're like, the lepers are in the cave. I don't know why they knew this.
Yep.
But they did. And they strike the lepers a deal. They're like, hey, you know what, y'all? Life sucks. Okay? We know this. You're lepers. You know this more than everybody.
Yep.
So you want to be free. We want to be free. We want to be rich. Here's what we do. We'll give you half of everything we take if you let us hide it here and one of you comes with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, and you're like, why does one of them have to come with them? Okay, whatever. And they sneak out of the cave. The lepers are like, yeah, sure, okay. And he's like, why are you going to give them all our money? And he's like, I'm not. I'm going to kill them.
Yep. They also asked the lepers, why did you escape from the word you said?
Sanatorium.
Sanatorium, yes. You want to say sanitarium.
No.
And the head leper, who we do later find out
his name is Jose.
Jose.
So we'll call him Jose from here on out.
Jose says that it was like being buried alive. You can't call this living.
Yeah.
So it really sets up that the lepers are just miserable people that just want to be able to breathe fresh air and not be persecuted.
Well, sanatoriums were horrible places. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time you were treated as a prisoner. You were locked away. You didn't get fresh air. You got nothing.
Yeah.
Your life was miserable. I could go way into it, but I'm not going to because I think it's a fascinating topic. So yeah, their whole thing is that they just want to be free. And Carmino's like, I can use them. Like, I can use these people.
Yep.
Because they're going to die anyway, right? Like, they're sick, whatever. So, yeah, once they have all the money that they can leave, they're going to kill the lepers. Uh-oh. So then, we cut back to the town, and Dario's talking to Carmen, and he's like, okay, I have someone that can help us.
I know a guy.
He fights for justice. He fights for the people that need him. He's the man in the silver mask.
Batman.
Santo.
Yep. Our first mention of Santo.
Yep, this is our first mention of Santo. By the way, in this 13 series, he's a superhero.
Yep.
Like, actually a superhero.
So we cut to a wrestling ring in another town, and there's this basically like a snake oil salesman kind of guy. He's like, who will challenge my wrestler, Toro? Face them.
Yeah, El Toro. The whole idea is that for 100 pesos, you can try to fight El Toro, who is sick, by the way, according to our caller. But if you win, there's some contention here. You can win 1,000 pesos, but then it becomes 10,000 pesos because the captions of this movie are sometimes bullshit and change information. So we're going to say 10,000 pesos. Yeah. So basically, no one's ever supposed to beat El Toro. You're just supposed to give them their money. No one wins.
Yeah.
But the 10,000 pesos do exist. They do have them.
Yeah. He's got a bag full of money.
But nobody ever wins. So, it's a grift, honestly. And this wrestling ring is literally a mat on the ground with some very loose ropes around it.
Very slack.
Like this, obviously this probably was what wrestling mats were at the time, especially in Mexico where you had no money. Again, we could get into wrestling talk again. Oh no, we're about to get into wrestling talk again.
Oh yeah.
So no one can beat El Toro. And Santo comes out and he turns.
He doesn't even come out. He's just hard cut to Santo talking to 3 nuns.
Nuns are a big thing in movies in Mexico, especially in the West. Like, there's always nuns. I
get that. It was just I thought it would be revealed in a more dramatic way.
No, he's just talking to some nuns, and he's like, I'll fight El Toro and win the 10,000 pesos for the orphans.
Yeah.
Like, I'll donate it to the nuns. Because we have to show how good of a guy Santo really is. So he has to win the 10,000 pesos to give to the nuns for the orphans. Like, when he leaves later, he's like, say goodbye to the orphans for me, because we have to make this guy, I mean, he's called the Saint for a reason. Yeah. Like, El Santo, the Saint. We have to make him the world's greatest human being. So everything he does that's a good deed is always like 6 steps above what it needs to be. It's amazing.
So Santos challenges Toro, gets in the ring.
Well, his whole thing, he even says, at worst I lose 100 pesos. At best I win 10,000 pesos for the orphans.
Yep.
And then he gets into the ring.
And they start having a wrestling match.
Oh, they have like a real wrestling match. Like El Santo does like 4 head scissors for some reason.
Head scissors. He's actually taking wrestling bumps, like he's selling.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Like the other guy, like there are 2 guys that got in the ring before, and El Toro just beat the shit out of him, and they just kind of like stumble back and around. Like,
oh, that took way too long, by the way.
Oh yeah,
it was. All these fight scenes take like 2 minutes longer than they need to. And I do mean 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Not 30 seconds.
But like these guys, they're just like, they're extras. They're fumbling around. Santo is full on giving it wrestling bumps because he is a professional wrestler.
And he comes out, he takes his shirt off or what? Was he wearing a shirt?
I don't think he was.
It was. By the way, he's in his ring gear. He's in all of these movies. He's always wearing his actual ring gear that he wears in ring. So he's wearing like the white pants, the silver boots, his silver mask. And he fights El Toro and like a real legitimate wrestling match, and these nuns were so excited to watch a guy hurt another guy. They're literally like, kill him, Santo. I'm so sorry, God. Like,
that Toro is ready for dinner. Cut his ears and tail off.
Yeah, like these nuns are so excited. Literally one screams, kill him. Oh my God, forgive me. Like,
just a nun yelling, kill him.
And she's like giving the sign of the cross and then praying after she yells it. It was so actually funny.
What I also like is the way that, for lack of a better term, this match was booked in wrestling because, Toro's just coming through, he's just breaking these guys left and right. Mm-hmm. And Santo comes in. He doesn't just clean him up right away. Toro is beating him down for a bit. Then he has the triumphant baby face fire up and he comes back and...
That happens in a lot of wrestling where the heel or the bad guy... like beats up the face or the good guy, or in this case, baby face, which means like the best good guy of all time, basically. Like they beat him down for a while, and then the face will get up, and then they'll beat the bad guy. Like that's a trope in wrestling. And
he's like body slamming Toro, and Toro's just no selling it. He keeps getting back up.
So how did Santo win?
Santo wins. He throws him into the corner a few times, another body slam. Then he goes to the top rope and hits a freaking swanton bomb. Like fucking Jeff Hardy.
You might want to explain what a swanton bomb is.
Look up Jeff Hardy.
Okay, we can probably post a GIF or something.
He does a forward somersault and lands on his back on top of Toro and wins. There's also no referee. There's no 3 count. He just gets up and Toro.
No, there was a 3 count because he beats Toro down. He puts his foot onto Toro's chest, and you hear a 1, 2, 3.
Okay, I missed that.
Yeah, you do actually get a 1, 2, 3 as Santo pins the guy by putting his foot on his chest, which is a way you can pin a guy.
Yeah, as long as some part of you is covering them and both their shoulders are on the mat.
Yep, that's all. That's the only thing. So
the exposure also kept changing during this fight.
Yes, this was where we mentioned the exposure, where literally it changed in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
It was horrible, and I'm assuming it was because they were filming in the daytime.
You got to deal with cloud coverage.
And you got to deal with cloud coverage, and they don't have lighting, I'm assuming, because this is a very low production. You can tell that it is, but it doesn't look bad. I actually didn't mention this before, but the lepers' makeup actually pretty good.
Yeah.
They did really good job for the low budget prosthetics they had. So yeah, Santo gives the money to the nuns. The guy's like, "You're not really gonna take the 10,000 pesos, are you?" And he's like, "Fuck yeah, I am."
Grabs the money from the snake oil guy.
Sure.
That's all I can think of. The
swindler.
Swindler. That's a good word.
And he gives it to the nuns. He's like, "Say hi to the orphans for me." As a guy comes running, like, "Santo, you have to go to the sheriff's office. You're needed in another town.
You have to go to Santa Fe."
Yeah, and he's like, "Okay," and then he leaves. Yep. He doesn't question anything. He's just like, "All right, got it," and then he's gone.
Also, the crowd cheering during after the fight. Mm-hmm. When he goes and talks to the swindler, the crowd just immediately stops. Takes the money. Crowd immediately starts again. Goes over to the nuns. Crowd immediately stops.
It stops anytime they're going to talk. Because, again, they probably didn't have microphones. It was probably, the camera mics they had. That's why it's so quiet. But you know what? It kind of added some charm to the whole thing.
Charm is a good way to describe this movie.
I actually really liked this movie. There was something endearing about it that, you can't help but love.
Yeah. I think it definitely helps that we're wrestling fans.
Yeah, but my whole thing, I love that kind of stuff, though, where it's like, oh, man, I actually really love this. Anyway, I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and those are all charm.
Yeah. So we cut back to Santa Fe, which is the main town where this all is.
No, the main town is it Santa Fe? I thought it was just a tiny town, and then Santa Fe is the closest, because I thought it was La Benzos.
That was the name of the sanatorium.
No, that was La Leprosos.
Okay, well, he said something about Santa Fe there, so maybe I misread.
I'm guessing that he had to go to Santa Fe because that's the closest place, because I'm pretty sure the actual town was named Los Banos or something like that. Or Los Banos, Los Banzos, something like that. Again, the captions are not always the greatest, and they do kind of change the spelling at times.
And we were trying to take notes while reading captions.
There's at one point where it's supposed to say them, and it says hem.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. But no, he goes to Santa Fe, but they're not in the town of Santa Fe, because if this was set in if this was set in that time period, Santa Fe still would have been much larger than that. Mm-hmm. So and he also talks to Santo later and tells him, "We're very secluded out here. The closest city is Santa Fe." Okay. I'm pretty sure he says that. He does say they're very secluded.
I just assumed it was another Santa Fe, like how there's multiple Springfields and stuff.
No, I think Santa Fe is just the closest town. So, yeah, anyway. Carmino is getting the town to turn against Dario to get what he wants.
Getting all riled up.
He's getting the town riled up, which he does a lot, by the way. How many times this man has to be like, "Calm your tits down."
There are so many times in this movie where we transition back to the town, just a group of people in the town saying, "We should kill him. Rah, 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 rah,
we should kill everyone." Carmino's like, "Don't worry," or Carmino's is planning something. Clearly, Dario knows this. He doesn't know what he's planning. He even says, "I don't know what you're planning, but if you hurt these people, I will kill you." Yeah. If you get this town all riled up, I'll put you down myself, boy.
Dario says, "If you don't shut up, I'm going to shoot you." Mm-hmm. Carmino says, "That'd be murder. I'm unarmed." "I don't care." And then they're like, "Okay, let's see what he has to say."
Well, because he keeps inciting panic.
Yeah.
That's very illegal. Especially in this time where you have lepers wandering the fucking desert that people want to kill, and then you're inciting a panic. Hell yeah, you're going to want to put that down. So Dario tells the town that they haven't had any luck finding the lepers, but Santo is coming.
Also, during this speech, there's a goat just baying in the background.
Wait, he's what?
There's a goat just in the background.
Yeah, there is, isn't there? It's really loud, while the rest of it's really quiet. So I'm assuming that goat had to be standing near the camera.
Yeah.
But they're like, Santo is coming, and then there's like, Santo, like Santo. Like that's clearly what they were going for. Like you're supposed to hang on the fact that he's coming.
Yeah. Then we cut to Santo riding a white horse. Dramatic music playing as he rides down the hill wearing his wrestling gear and a denim jacket with the collar popped up. I thought he was riding into the town, and then he just comes down the path. He's just talking to the sheriff. I was like, oh, I thought there'd be more people here.
Yeah, he's wearing like a blue shirt, his white wrestling pants, his boots, and his mask, and he's got that collar popped like a jock. The whole film, by the way, this collar never goes down. He was looking fly.
Yeah.
But I laughed so hard. I laughed when he first showed up because the visual of him riding this horse across the desert, like over a rock, was so funny to me. We had to pause so I wouldn't miss the captions of the movie because it looks ridiculous. But at the same time, I'm sure in Mexico, you're like, there he is. Like, that wouldn't be funny. But to me, it was so funny.
So Santo speaks with Dario. Dario lets him know what's going on with the lepers, all this. Santo's like, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. So they get on their horses and ride off in complete silence.
Yep, he's like, Carmina wants to kill the lepers. We're trying to save the lepers. And he's just like, got it. Like,
so they go in town. He meets up with Dr. Ramos and Carmen. Mm-hmm. Dr. Ramos tells him, like, infection's our biggest concern. Then, murder. People are getting...
Right. Ramos really is more worried about the fact that these people could be infected. There isn't a cure for leprosy at this point in time.
Yep. Okay.
And that they can't have the town in a panic because if the town panics, there's not going to be a way to stop them. Like,
yeah.
Oh, excuse me, I burped. I drank too much coffee too quickly. Whew. Okay. And Santo's like, this isn't going to be easy, but we need to find a solution. It's clear that these lepers are stealing out of fear, and they have nothing to do with any of this. Clearly nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Like Santo knows what's up. Like, he shows up, he strides into town, and he's like, I got it. I know what's up. Immediately, he knows what's up. He's got a plan.
Yeah.
He's down to clown. It's kind of amazing. So...
Okay, I fucked up my note here horribly.
What'd you put?
Well, I wanted to write Santo wants to save the town and the lepers.
Yeah.
The lepers are still people.
Yeah.
Instead, I wrote, Santo wants to save the town and the wrestler.
So Carmen asks the question that I'm sure is asked in, like, every Santo movie. She's like, hey, Santo, why do you wear a mask? And Dario is like, how dare you ask this man? Don't worry, Santo. I'll explain it. Santo is a great wrestler that fights for justice and the good of the people that need him.
Yep.
But
if he knew his face, he wouldn't be able to help.
Right. As a luchador, he has to keep his identity secret. So if he was unmasked, he wouldn't be able to help people anymore.
Yep.
And Santo wants to help the lepers because they're innocent, sick people.
Yeah.
Which, in what I'm assuming is the turn of the century, at the latest 1915, I do have a reason for that, people would not have thought. They would have been like, the lepers are sinners and horrible because you got leprosy from sin, basically. Or at least that was, like, ancient belief.
Yeah.
So, Santo, very progressive thinking here.
Dr. Ramos as well.
Oh, all of them, really.
Yeah.
Especially for being in a sanitarium, which they would have been like, fuck all of you, you're in a sanitarium.
Yeah.
They're very progressive, very 1970s thinking here. So, we cut again. I think, did we whip pan this time, or was this a hard cut?
I just had a cut here.
Okay, so it cuts here to a drunk man that wanders into the town saloon, and he's like, if I see these lepers, I'll kill them. And the bartender's like, no, you won't. Like, he clearly knows this man is drunk. Like, this dude is all talk.
Stumbling, he's slurring.
Well, it's also that this dude is probably all talk. Like, he's probably said shit like this before.
I caught me a fish that was this big.
Right. Like, he's probably one of those types of dudes. And he just kind of, like, sighs and pours him a drink, which, don't pour a drunk man a drink, but all right.
Yeah, money's money.
Yeah. At this point, yeah. So, all of a sudden the door swings open and we have the funniest scene in this movie. Is this the funniest scene? Yeah, I think so. Next to him showing up on his horse. So Carmina shows up. He opens the door. And the first person that walks in is not him. It's a leper.
Mm-hmm.
He brought one leper with him to stand in the saloon so that way, a leper was here, we can burn the place down.
Yep, and also the rest of the riders, they all have their faces covered. They don't know if the rest of them are lepers either.
Right.
They don't want anyone to touch them. If there's one leper, they're all like 8 or 9 of these guys could be.
Right, they don't know. But immediately, this woman starts screaming.
There is pure panic, pandemonium.
We're talking, literally, I kid you not, like cowboys jumping out of a window.
Yes.
Like, I kid you not, a dude jumps out a window followed by another dude jumping out the same window. Which, by the way, if you looked out that window, you could tell just led to a soundstage.
Yeah.
There was like a white wall behind it.
There's a woman sitting at a table. She's not moving. She's just sitting there shrieking and screaming. And Carmino just comes over and just smacks her in the head with his gun.
And she just passes out. Like, okay.
And then they shoot the drunk man.
Yeah, they shoot the drunk man because the drunk man's like, oh no. And he's standing there. And the thing is, they don't know if he knows who they are. Like, They kill a lot of people just for, like, keeping this a secret.
Yeah, so they shoot the drunk man. Everyone has either fled or is passed out because they got hit in the head with a gun.
Yep.
Or fell out a window.
Yep.
And they start robbing the place.
And
then we have the goddamn quickest harp transition. It's like, and then we're back in Devil's Cave.
They're back in Devil's Cave because they told them that they would stash the loot in Devil's Cave. And the lepers that would stay behind would keep it safe. Because they'd be there. Yeah. I mean, why not? So he brings them he's like, I brought you food, wine, and money. He keeps really harping on the wine and the money.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, dinero, you need money to be free. You need money. Take the money. Like, he throws a gold ring at a guy and tells him to put it on. Like, he's really harping on these guys that they need money. Like, for some reason.
Also, the guy that put the ring on, like, he puts it on and looks up dramatically at Carmino, but half his face is off screen.
Yeah, I did notice that.
There's a few points in this movie like that. I feel like maybe this movie was actually in a widescreen aspect ratio, but originally, but the version we watched was in 4:3.
Maybe. I don't know. It would have 1970. I don't know that it would have been widescreen.
I'm wondering if maybe, like, when it was theatrically released.
Oh, maybe. It could be that it cropped for the DVD.
Yeah. But man, there's a point later on that's really fucking funny.
Oh, okay. I think I know which one you're talking about. I may have also not noticed. Yeah. We'll get there. So, Santo goes to talk to Dr. Ramos. And he's like, so I want you to tell me everything you can about leprosy. And the doctor says that there are 2 kinds. And I hate to tell you that I didn't write down the names of the 2 kinds because I was typing so quickly.
Yeah, one was like A something, one was hyper something.
Right. And what you really need to know is that there are 2 kinds of leprosy. One that causes you to have no sensation in certain parts of the body. You could smoke a cigarette, it would burn down to the nub, it would burn you and you'd never feel it.
Yep.
And the other causes great pain. When you touch anything, when you do anything, it causes you great pain. And he's like, I don't know why this is going to help you. And Santo's like, so you would lack agility if you're a leper, right? And he's like, well, yeah, because you either can't feel anything and you're slowed way down, or you're in a lot of pain, so you don't go very quickly. And Santo's like, this is of great use to me. It never comes back up again.
Yeah.
He's just like, thank you. This helps more than you'll ever know. And
I think what it is that he was able to, like, when he looks at them, he sees that they're moving, they're pretty agile and they're not impeded.
Yeah, I'm assuming that maybe that's what it is that he can figure out, like, which leprosy they have by, like, oh, so you're telling me they wouldn't have agility if they had this second one because they'd be in so much pain? And he's like, yeah.
Well, my initial thought was like, oh, this guy's moving all right. He doesn't have leprosy.
No, my thought was maybe, I don't know.
Or that they were moving so he'd be able to, they're moving so slowly
that's
so
a good point. That's a good point. It's like, these guys are moving too fast.
Yeah.
There's no way they have I didn't even think of that. Good thought.
That was my thought. But yeah, it never comes back up.
It never really comes back up, but it must be that he sees how quick they're moving, and he's like, they can't be lepers, because if they were lepers, they would be moving slowly because Plus, it's probably really tiring.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have the agility to do this. And even way earlier in the movie, they say that these are sick men. They can't go very far.
Yeah.
This is like the second time it's brought up. So this is probably why Santo wanted to know that, because he realizes, like, these guys are kind of agile, and they've been burning down a lot of places. So he goes back to the town, Santo does, and he's like, yo, calm your ass down. And they're like, no. And he's like, okay, fine.
Guess what? Once again, they're in the street. Arguing and rabbling and saying you should kill everyone.
By the way, every time this happens, they're in front of the same building in the town. Every single time. And Santo's like, I need the people to trust me if I want my plan to work.
And Carmino's in there.
And Carmino.
Riling shit up.
And so Dario, they're like, we should replace Dario as sheriff. He's terrible. They're going to burn our houses down. Like, panic. And Santo is like, we have to calm the people down. My plan won't work. So they ride up to Carmino, and Dario's like, meet Santo. And Carmino's like, haha, fuck Santo. And he makes fun of his mask.
Yep.
And the thing is, this is clearly what Santo wanted. He makes fun of Santo. He's like, you're not a real man.
He calls him the white pigeon.
Yeah, he calls him a white pigeon. You're not a real man. I live out here. You don't. You're not that tough. And then he threatens to unmask him.
Big no-no for luchadors.
So in lucha culture, as I said before, your mask is your identity. Your mask is everything. It makes you a wrestler. If you are unmasked, sometimes there are match types where the loser has their mask taken off of them. It is like the biggest disgrace that can happen to you as a luchador is to have your mask taken. Sometimes they'll fight to get their mask back. Sometimes it's how they retire.
Yeah,
It's a big, big, big deal.
There was a lot of times back, especially around like when this movie would have been set, early 1900 and stuff, that if you lost your mask as a luchador, that was it. You could not wrestle.
You were not allowed to wrestle again.
I mean, nowadays, luchadors will still wear their masks a lot of the time, but...
Well, I mean, Rey Mysterio got unmasked at one point in a storyline back in...
WCW, I think.
Yeah, he got unmasked, and he's masked now,
Yeah.
but that was like the biggest disgrace you could have was for your mask to be taken from you.
Yeah.
So this would have been... especially like the 1970s, it would have been understood as like, oh, no, that's the worst thing that could happen to Santo. He would no longer be El Santo.
Like, there are guys today who have been unmasked, like Andrade and Santos Escobar, and they're still doing fine.
Yeah, or El Generico, Sami Zayn, he stopped being El Generico and went to being Sami Zayn. He stopped being a luchador, which does happen. Prince Puma, Ricochet, he stopped being Prince Puma. I don't know about Tiger Mask. He's a Japanese wrestler.
Yeah.
Jushin Thunder Liger was shown without his mask before.
And he would become a completely different person.
Yes, he would change his personality. So you can be unmasked, but to have it like stripped from you.
Yeah.
For you to take it off and like show yourself is one thing. But it's a completely another for a wrestler to like rip it off your head and like expose you.
Or to lose it in a match.
Or to lose it in a match. Something like that would be completely different. So like this is what Santo wanted because he wants to beat Carmino in a fight to get the town on his side because this guy tough. Like Santo, tough guy. So they have another very long fight scene that's way too long. They brawl in the center of town, and everyone in town is there.
We keep cutting to these people, and frankly, a lot of them look kind of bored.
They did look really bored.
It's a long fight.
This was a very long fight of just people. And it's not like the first fight where we had some wrestling moves that was, like, kind of interesting. Like, ooh, look, a head scissors. Oh, look, a Hurricane Rana. Oh, look. Actually, I don't think he ever hits a Hurricane Rana, but still. This is just... punch, kick, throw, choke. Like, not a fun fight to watch. That goes on and on.
I don't know how long it actually went on, but it felt forever.
It felt like forever. And this movie's only like 90 minutes, by the way. This is not a super long movie.
I think it's even shorter. I think it was like an hour 17 minutes. It's
yeah,
not long. But
it's not very long. If you go online, it clocks it at 90 minutes for some reason. But when we looked, like, on the DVD, that was an hour and 17 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know.
we missed more of the fight scenes.
Maybe. So, they go on a way too long of a brawl. Santo wins, because, of course,
He did hit an actual wrestling move here. He hit him with a back body drop.
Oh, he did hit him with the back body drop, which, again, go ahead.
That's when he hit. Santos gets the edge of the crowd, gets the edge of the match, gets control, then he wins the match.
Yeah.
Or not the match, the fight.
Explain what a back body drop is.
Basically, a guy comes running at you, you bend down, you lift them up with your back, and they go flying over.
Yeah. It's a very transitional move. A lot of the time, you'll see it used to, like, just get, like, either a counter or, like I said, transitional. So meaning, like, you're running into your next, what's called spot, but you need a way to get there, but you can't get there by just like, okay, and now I'm going to go over here. So you have to make it interesting.
Yeah.
It's a, you know, it's not crazy, but it's a cool move.
A lot of, like, the moves, especially in the wrestling match earlier, a lot of the stuff he did that was, like, actual wrestling moves, pretty tame by today's standards.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got to keep building up to keep things interesting.
Right. By today's standards, it was a very boring, slow fight with way too many head scissors for some reason. But by then, it probably would have been very exciting.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have been. I've watched some 1970s stuff, especially out of Japan and Mexico, that is top tier, even considered by today's standards. American wrestling at the time was so boring. American wrestling was like, I'm a big guy. Blam, 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 blam.
Unless you're watching Savage, Steamboat, or Flair.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And you will be bored out of your gourd. It was more about the storytelling and the characters.
It really was. It was
like fucking Repo Man and shit.
Oh, yeah.
That was more 90s, I guess.
That was the 90s, but still, it was very much big man slapping meat at the time.
Yeah.
It was very boring. But it did a lot for wrestling now. And back then it was very exciting. But in Mexico and Japan, oh no, they were hitting the big shit then. Not sure about England, but still. So, yeah, it was tame by today's standards, but still very exciting. Like, he was still hitting some stuff. Anyway.
All right, so they have their fight. Santos wins. I keep calling him Santos. Santo.
Santo.
I keep thinking Santos Escobar. Santo, he wins. He starts talking with Dario. They, like, sums up with these guys. Let's set a trap.
Yeah. He realizes, probably through fighting Caramino, that, like, oh no, like, these couldn't be the lepers. So he's like, we're going to trap whoever is robbing these people, and they can lead us to the lepers, basically. Yeah. Or at least we can trap. He wants to prove it's not the lepers. They don't know where the lepers are at this point. They don't even know that they're using the lepers yet. But their whole idea is, if we can at least stop the people that are robbing people and prove that it's not the lepers, then maybe people won't want to kill the people with leprosy. So they go to this homestead that is literally, it's full of money. It's full of art. They put shepherds in the field, like, to make, like, calling out to the animals. Like, they make...
Hey, Bob, did you hear about this? The Jim's house? It's full of money and art.
Yeah. Literally, they're like, shitload of wine in here. Like, they make this house, like, no one's home. Like... like, ripe for the picking. Like, obviously, like, this is where you're gonna go. And they're gonna trap whoever is plundering the house and causing all the trouble. So Caramino and his men, they walk up, but they made a mistake. The door's half open. There's no lights on. There's nobody inside. If you were gonna set this trap up, you would have at least had, like, one dude inside with, like, a light on somewhere.
And they say there's no lights on, but man, it's bright in there.
It's very bright in there. But it's not in the room
it's not
that
in
Dario and Santo are in. It's very dark in there. But yeah, outside it's very dark, inside it's very bright, and then in the other room it's very dark again. It makes no sense.
Well, there were points when they were outside that I thought it was like a cut to the next day because it was so bright. But then other points, it was not. It was weird.
It kept switching between daytime and nighttime, but it was supposed to clearly just be nighttime. I just started ignoring it after a while because it happened a ton.
Yeah.
But they walk in and they're like, "You go first, guy we don't care about." So guy we don't care about.
The canary in the mine shaft.
Yes, that type of deal. Like the guy that's like, he's the weakest link, send him in first type of deal. He trips a trap. He goes through something because they know this place is trapped. They're like, this doesn't feel right. They're pretty good bandits. They can tell when they're going to be had. And he trips the trap. And an iron door, an iron slated door like you would see in a castle.
Or a jail cell.
Yeah, like falls.
These wrought iron bars.
Yeah, like they fall. Like this is the most normal thing in the world, by the way, to them.
Yeah.
And he gets the guy they sent in first gets trapped behind the door, and Carmino's like looking at his other boy because there were 3 boys in here.
Yeah.
He looks at these other guy. They look at him, and he's like, "Don't leave me in here." And they're like, "These are fucking iron, my dude. Like, there's nothing I can do." So they shoot him.
It's like it'd be real inconvenient to keep you alive. So Carmino shoots him 5 times.
Yeah, he shoots him 5 times because he could tell whoever trapped them like where the lepers are and where they are and who they are.
So the Riders of Terror, they head on. They run off.
They run off, and Santo goes into the room, and he opens the door, and the guy's still alive.
After being shot 5
times in the chest. Like, this dude should not be talking. Even if he was alive, he could not get out as many words that he does. Because this dude tells him, like, that they aren't the lepers. They're all hiding in Devil's Cave. And he's like, my boss betrayed me. And he's like, well, who's your boss? And he goes, my boss is. And then he just dies. Like, it's comical because it's just like, my boss is
It's like we just watched the Lego movie the other day, and it's like, I must tell you, this is very important.
Yeah, it's just like that. Like he said, it's comical. He's like, my boss is and it's like, oh, come on. He couldn't get out like another word. And Santo's just like, all right, because at least now they know that the lepers are in Devil's Cave and that it's not the lepers that are stealing everything.
I mean, so Carmino was right to shoot him because he was going to talk. He shot him
in the chest. He should have shot him like in the throat, in the face,
head.
like,
or more. This guy took 5 fucking bullets.
This bro was goddamn Iron Man. Like he lived.
Shrugged it off.
Yeah, he did die, but he lived way longer than he should have. Also, for being shot 5 times, not a lot of blood.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some like splattered on him, but like he wasn't bleeding out onto the floor. The red paint was just on his chest. So Santo is like, oh man, they're clearly using the lepers for their own game.
Yeah. I have a quote here from him. I suspect someone is using those miserable people to cover their misdeeds.
Yeah, which is exactly what's going on.
Right on the money.
But it seems like in a lot of these movies, like Santo always is just like, this is what's happening, and that's what's happening. Because I was kind of looking into it a little bit because I couldn't find any facts about this movie. Like, everything was either in Spanish or just not there.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a whole lot of time to, like, look everything up. I did find a couple of weird facts for later, but nothing crazy. So then, Carmino and his boys are riding off. This is, like, Jose, which we still don't actually know his name yet, is with them. And he was like, I'm going to go this way. And Carmino's like, where are you going? He's like, to see my girlfriend that I haven't seen in 8 years.
Yeah. He says, you're not thinking of betraying us, are you?
He's like, nah.
Carmino is really projecting there, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Because he just betrayed someone.
Yeah, he's betrayed quite a few people.
Yep.
And Jose's like, nah, I want to go see my girlfriend for the first time in 8 years. And Carmino just lets him go.
Yeah.
He could have easily, like, ridden into the town or went and found Santo or whatever. And he's just... But, you know, he doesn't. He rides off to go see his girl. And the gang are riding into the forest that we have seen a million times. Yep. The same portion of the forest, by the way. It's always the same shot. Anytime they go to a location, there's no variation. It is always the same shot of that location every single time.
They are changing location. Now they're going to the Cave of the Old Widow. Yeah,
they want to go to the Cave of the Old Widow. I think that's where they're going to, like, move everybody.
They don't want to stay in
they don't want to stay in the Devil's Cave for too long, so I think they're going to, like... They still have to go back to Devil's Cave to go get everybody.
Yeah.
But they say that they're going to go to this Cave of the Old Widow so that way they can, like, move everything, which makes sense. So, yeah, go ahead.
So we see that Santo is following the riders.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, we're being followed. And then they like turn to ride off in a different direction. Santo's a little bit of a distance away.
Yeah.
So it's really funny to me. Like, you see them turn and like start to ride in a different way. And then like a minute or two later, you see Santo get there and he immediately knows where they went.
Yep.
And he's just like, nah, this way. Like, he's never, ever, like...
He's never wrong.
Deterred. He's never incorrect about anything. So he tracks them down.
Some of them are hiding. They get down on the side of a hill. They hide over the lip of the hill.
Yeah, it's a ridge that we've seen a million times already.
And they ambush Santo. They shoot at him. Santo is like, oh no, I have to be slightly defeated for once. And he runs off.
Yeah, like, uh-oh.
And then like the 3 riders that were shooting at him stand up, move a few feet to the right where their horses and the rest of the riders are so clearly visible. Santo would have seen those guys.
Oh, Santo, absolutely. If he had looked up and to the right, just a hair... He would have seen them. He'd have been like, there they are. But no, clearly he was paying way too much. Like, if you waved I'm looking to the left, but if you waved your hand, I would still see it, you know? Like, it's so stupid.
It's like, if they wouldn't have panned over to the right, it'd be like, oh yeah, they actually were pretty hidden over that lip. Oh
no,
their entire posse is 12 feet to the left.
They're 12 feet to the right. And they're not hiding behind the lip. They're on it. They're on the ridge.
They're still on their horses.
Like, they're not even trying. But the dudes that were shooting at Santo were, like, prone on their stomachs, shooting at him with their little pistols. It's hysterical. Like, okay, so this is where Jose, he rides off to this house, and he whistles, and this woman comes out, and she's like, Jose? And that's where we learn his name.
Yep.
And he's like, have you forgotten me? And she's like, no, I'll never forget you. Like,
still
I'm in
cares
love with
about
you.
him.
Yeah, she still loves him 8 years later. She still loves him. And he's like, don't come any closer because he's sick. He knows how that he can't get close to her. And she's like, I'll never forget you. And we fade. We get a soft focus into a soft fade. Is that what you would call that? Like,
yeah,
it just goes like softer and softer and softer, and then bink, we're up in another memory.
Yep, it's a flashback.
Like, it's a flashback, which, okay, fine. And she's trying to chop some wood, but man, is she gonna either chop off her leg or kill someone, because she's like, it's so weak. And she doesn't have the wood braced against anything. It's not on another log. It's just, like, on the ground. And she's, like, stepping on it, like, kind of a little. It's moving everywhere. Like, this lady can clearly not chop wood.
Yeah.
And Jose's like, what are you doing?
Like, he rides up on his horse. This is before he had leprosy.
Yeah, this is before he had leprosy. This was, like, 8 years ago, maybe 9, who knows. And he has this beautiful pink shirt on. I wrote about it because it was bright pink. And, she's like, oh, Jose. And he's like, are you alone? And she's like, yeah, my dad and what I'm assuming is her brother are, like, out in town. And he's like, oh, perfect. And he's like, I brought you a present. And he pulls out this little, like, piece of paper and he hands it to her. And she's, like, opening it. And he's off screen now, okay? Like, it pans to her. She opens it. She's like, an engagement ring? And it whips back to him. And he's taking his shirt off.
Completely shirtless.
He has taken off his hat and his shirt. And his bandana, and he has his shirt over his shoulder, and he's inexplicably shirtless. Either, I don't know.
Because they're gonna bone.
I was to say, they must be in a bone zone, because he asked if she was alone. And she's like, we're gonna get married.
They're both so happy, and they're gonna get married. All this happy, shirtless, fun stuff.
Yeah, and then we cut back to the present. They talk about how much they love each other a little again, and he's like, no, I can't be with you, like, I'm sick. And she's like, but what if we run away together? There's still hope. We could run away together. And he's like, nah, bitch, I'm sick. Like,
we'll run away. The leprosy can't catch us.
Yeah, like, come on, Lupe. That's her name, by the way. We hear it, like, one time.
After the flashback.
Yeah, after the flashback, like, when he's about to, like, ride off into the desert, he was like, this is the last time you'll ever see me, Lupe. I love you. And that's how we know her name.
Yeah. Then he says goodbye forever and leaves.
And then he goes, bye forever. See you later. Deuces. And she's like, no. Because of course she would be, because she loves him and she's sad.
Yeah. All right. So then we cut back to Devil's Cave.
Yep. And the lepers are drinking and they're very sad.
There's one who's very drunk, very sad. He's singing a sad song to himself, breaks down in tears.
Did you notice that when he looks down at the end of this scene, his prosthetic pulls away from the skin.
I missed that.
Yeah, like, I thought maybe it was a makeup, but no, it's clearly like a rubber prosthetic that they put across him that look, honestly, really good for the time. Like, they look really good. I mean, they're low budget. They're clearly low budget, but they look really good for what budget they clearly had. Like, they don't look terrible, except for this one that he looks down and it completely pulls away from his skin, and it made me laugh, and I had to write it in.
Yeah.
So Carmino shows up. He demands the lepers out of the cave. The one that's been drinking and singing and his disease is pulling away from his skin won't leave, so he shoots him.
Yep.
Because, again, they don't know if they're being followed. They don't know what's going on. They can't leave anyone alive, so they shoot him. And then they take all the other lepers out of the cave. And then Dario must have immediately searched that cave afterward.
Yeah.
Because he's like, we searched it. All we found was a dead leper. And Santo's like, okay, we have to set a trap so that Carmino and his gang will rob where we want them to rob. We let them get away, and they lead us to the lepers. That's his whole plan. So what do? They go to the bank, and they put up a sign. And they're like, hey, miners, we have the money to pay you on time.
Yep.
Literally, we have the money to pay you right now. We're going to pay you, like, tomorrow instead of Saturday. Basically, they're getting paid early.
Yeah.
And I think they mentioned something about, like, a bonus. Like, holy cow, there's a lot of money in the bank right now, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
And Carmino's like, this is a trap. I know it's a trap. We're going to do it anyway.
Yep.
We're going to send a counter trap.
So at that night, the riders decide to make a distraction by setting fire to a house down at the other end of the street.
Now, when they pick this house, the bank is in clear fucking view of this house.
Yep.
But it would have been a really easy house to burn. It was mostly wood. And man, was it an easy house to burn.
Up.
It was like, okay, we're going to start a fire. And then it was gone. Like, this woman comes screaming out of her house, screaming about a fire. And the house is up in flames. Like, there's no saving this house.
Yep.
I mean, they obviously try to. They fire brigade it like they would have at the time.
A guy comes up with a bucket of water. He completely whiffs.
He didn't hit it at all.
But then more people have more buckets, and they actually start putting it out.
Yeah, so the gang used the commotion that they make to break into the bank. But a woman happens to turn around, and she sees them breaking into the bank because, again, this house is in full fucking view. It's like 3 houses away from the bank.
This one comes out of the saloon, which is right across the street from the bank.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It's like, they're robbing the bank!
So
And a gunfight happens.
So there's a gunfight that happens. I think Dario gets shot in the arm or the shoulder or something.
I thought he did too, but no, Dario doesn't get shot.
See, he, like, holds his arm for a little bit like he had been. Like, you know.
Well, from what I saw, he gets hit by a horse.
Oh, is that what it was?
It was hard to tell, but it looked like he got hit by a horse-drawn
Because
carriage.
he, like, holds his arm like he's been shot at some point. Like, he's injured. Like, you know how they'll be like, and they'll, like, hold their arm? That's how he's holding it. So I thought he got shot in the arm. So Carmen just keeps standing next to this horse-drawn carriage and going, oh, no! And she's holding her hands to her face, because woman, and in the 1970s, and, like, no, Dario! And like, and this is all she does. She doesn't move. She doesn't run away.
And then guess what? She gets kidnapped by the riders.
She gets kidnapped by the riders. They run up. They just pick her up, put her on the horse. I think this is when the horse-drawn carriage must hit Dario, because she's standing next to a horse-drawn carriage that just, like,
it was right
bolts
before
off.
this.
Yeah.
So then we have a cut to the next day, and Dario is fine. I thought he died.
I wasn't sure what was wrong. Oh, but they ride, like, Carmino and his guys ride south. Santo follows them.
Yep.
Like, he is on the trail. We watch them ride through all kinds of places. So, like, we're riding through the forest. And then they'll cut to, like, we're riding through the ridge. And then they'll cut back to Santo riding through the forest in, like, the exact spot they just were. Again,
Santo riding through the forest.
Again, it's super funny. It's a terribly done montage again, but not as bad as the first one.
This movie is really bad with montages.
Mm-hmm. So the town, it cuts back to Dario in the town, and they're pulling out guns from, like, the sheriff's office, which is a thing that would have happened. Like, if you were going to be attacked, you would start handing out the guns to the townspeople. Like,
did you notice what was up with this footage here?
No.
It was slightly sped up.
Oh, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was sped up by maybe like 15, 20%.
You're right, it was when they were handing
Everyone
the guns
was
out.
moving just a little too quickly, a little too jerkily.
I guess I noticed, but it didn't register that was what it
Yeah.
was. Because I did think it was a little fast. But they're like, we're gonna burn down the sanatorium. And Dario's like, look, it's not the lepers. I don't know who it is. I went to find them, couldn't. But Santo is right behind them. He rode off with them. If they're not back by 6 p.m. tomorrow, you can do what you want. It then later becomes 10 p.m. because the captions don't know what they're doing.
I don't know.
Just like the 1,000 pesos to 10,000 pesos thing. It happens a couple of times. I'm assuming it's just a mistranslation. I don't know. But it says 6 p.m., then it becomes 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Super weird. Anyway, so Caramino and his gang go to the waterfall. Santo's just behind him. Like, he's sneaking up behind them. There's some buildings and then a cave for some reason.
Oh, this is the old widow's cave.
Yeah, but like, why are the buildings?
I don't know. They're like old dilapidated buildings.
I'm
no one's
assuming
living there.
Yeah, it's weird. There's like these weird buildings next to a cave that's full of hay for some reason.
Where the old widow lived.
I don't know, but why is the cave full of hay? It is full. I mean, full of hay.
They bought all this hay and they didn't burn it in the last season. They had to do something with it.
Anyway, so they stash everything into this cave, and this is where we get a line that I had to put down because Carmino says something, and I thought one thing, and it ended up being another. So they tie the lepers up, and they tie up Carmen, and they say they have to let the animals rest for the day. I thought that meant the horses, okay? Mm-hmm. They then ride off on the horses. They meant the lepers. Mm-hmm. Yep. He called the lepers animals.
I missed that. I was focusing on the part where they're talking about Carmen was their shield.
Yes. Yeah. They took Carmen because they know she's with Dario. Like, they can use her basically as leverage. Not that it ends up mattering. So they ride off on the horses. They leave one guard behind.
We find out later that this one guard's name is Pedro.
Oh, what's his name? Pedro? I missed
Yeah.
it. So Pedro, my boy Pedro, is standing there with his gun.
It's my friend Pedro.
Sure. I love that game. Devolver Digital Forever. Anyway, Santo climbs this wall and jumps down on him like a cool guy.
Yeah.
And this is where I noticed that his collar had been popped the entire movie. I don't know why. And this fight, again, takes forever because nothing happens. They punch each other. They fall into some dirt and get dirty. They fall into a bunch of trees for some reason.
Yep.
They fall into that same shrub like 4 times.
There's a lot of falling over in this one.
Yeah, it's very boring.
And Santo goes for a lot of crossbodies in here, which actually I found out was one of his signature moves.
Yes, the crossbody was his signature.
I guess springboard plancha, but this is just a running on, which does not look nearly as cool if you're not doing a springboard move.
You might want to explain what that means.
So basically, he had this move where he would leap out of the ring, like use the ropes to pull himself over the ring, land on his opponent outside of the ring.
It's a very cool move, even by today's standards, but back then, nobody else would have been doing this. So basically, you would grab the rope and use your body weight and momentum to throw yourself over it.
Yeah.
And you could get some distance if you knew what you were doing.
Like, he was basically doing this, but just standing next to the guy. So he just kind of leapt up, stuck his arms and legs out, and just like, yeah, catch me.
It is so funny. Like, you laughed out loud. And I almost didn't catch it because I looked down and looked back up, and it was...
And he did it like 3 or 4 times.
He did it 3 or 4 times, but there was one time that he leapt over like a rock, and it looked like he just like tripped and went into a Superman pose, is the best way I can describe it. Oh boy, it's amazing.
So they do this for a long time. He finally knocks out Pedro.
He finally knocks Pedro out. He drags him into like the nearby building to like hide his body, I guess. Yep. And he takes his gun and he goes in and he finds...
takes one of his guns.
He takes one of his guns.
He takes like his rifle.
He takes his rifle, that's right.
Doesn't take the other pistol.
Forgot about the pistol. And Santo finds Carmen and the lepers. He unties Carmen and he's like, okay. And she's like, Santo. And you probably did. That was probably very quiet. And he's like, okay, Carmen, if you take the road behind the building,
the cave,
cave, there's a building.
There's a shortcut.
There's a shortcut that'll get you back to town. Just like follow it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just run. Oh, by the way, when she's running, she does like the old stereotypical running with your arms up, like above your head, like you're in peril. It's amazing. She runs like that the entire time. Anyway.
Apparently she runs this time, doesn't stand there, just get kidnapped.
She doesn't stand there and scream. She really did just stand there and be like, ah! So then, she takes the road, she's running, and Santo unties one of the lepers very carefully with, like, one hand, like he's trying not to touch him, and he's like, okay, untie the others. Which was honestly, I thought, kind of a cool detail.
Yeah, it was a smart move.
It was a smart move. This movie knew what it was up. And he goes, the hospital's coming to get you. Oh, by the way, they found a new drug that's going to cure you.
Yep, never mentioned that before.
It came out of nowhere. I looked it up. The only reason I can say that this has to maybe take place in the early 1900s, maybe, is that the cure for leprosy was found in 1915. I looked this up. An African-American woman by the name of Anne, I forgot her last name, I'm so sorry, found the cure for leprosy in 1915. So that's that's the earliest this movie could have been set, but there's like no way. I mean, I guess, I don't know what Mexico was like then. Yeah. There could have still been like banditos then, but I have no idea. Because the Wild West in America ended in, I believe, 1895. Is when they say, like, the Old West, as we know it, ended.
Yeah.
So I don't know if in Mexico it would have been longer. I'm not sure. Because this is clearly the Old West. But he's like, yeah, they found a new drug. You're going to all be cured.
Yep.
And it just comes out of nowhere. Again, this goes with whenever Santo does something good, it goes 6 steps above what it needs to.
He can't just be good. He has to be amazing.
Yeah. So Dario is riding around in the woods. He's lost. He doesn't know where they are. I have in my notes,
Dario sucks at tracking down bad guys.
He does. He can never track down bad guys. Santo, on the other hand, a bloodhound.
Yep.
But Carmino and his gang come back to the cave, and Santo's like, put your hands up. And he shoots Carmino's ear.
This is the other point where I think it might be in a different aspect ratio originally. Mm-hmm. Because, like, he hides when the riders come back in, and they're like, why are you untied? And then what's supposed to happen is Santo steps into frame with a gun, but he doesn't.
He does not at all.
You hear him say, like, freeze, dirtbags, or something.
Something like that.
Yeah. And just his shadow and, like, a little bit of his elbow comes into frame.
And maybe a bit of the gun. It's like he tried to make the dramatic step and they completely missed it. It's like Edge at the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago when he
missed his
first move. They missed, I think, the spear that he did or something. Yeah,
the first time he made a move in a match in 9 years and they missed it. They cut
and then the next Royal Rumble they did it again.
Yeah.
That's a deep cut for all you wrestling fans out there.
Christian came back.
Oh boy. It was so funny.
But it's just like, in widescreen, yeah, you would have clearly been able to see Santo coming back in. That's why I think originally it was in widescreen.
It may have been.
Because this DVD is from 2003. It's just the full screen version of it, so they cut it down.
That's a good point. Didn't think about that.
That's
they probably blew it up some. Oh, I didn't think of that. But yeah, it's really funny because clearly he's supposed to be threatening. It's just like, where is he?
So yeah, Santo, he gets the riders to put all their guns down, but Pedro comes too outside, picks up the pistol.
Mm-hmm. And he's, like, Santo has his back to the cave, like the cave entrance, because he's told all the guys, like, go to the back of the cave. So he's got his back to the entrance. And Pedro's like, haha, I got a gun.
So he puts the gun to Santos' back, grabs the other gun from Santos. Now the riders are backing.
Santos.
Santo.
There you go.
I keep thinking Santos Escobar.
It's pronounced Santo, but whatever. Either way, it doesn't matter. So they start fighting. They get into a fight. And Carmen, doing her arms above her head run through the desert, sees Dario on his horse. And she's like, oh my God, Dario. And she fucking tripped.
I missed that.
She tripped when she, like, reached the horse and, like, fell into the horse. I don't know if it was intentional or if she was, like, throwing herself at him, but she definitely tripped and fell. And that's the shot they used. It's so funny.
So she gets on the horse with Dario, and she tells him where they are. They run to the old widow's cave.
Yeah, so, you know, where Santo is like fist fighting bros. Like they fight.
Like one of the riders was shot. Mm-hmm. And he's fighting off all these guys at once.
But Caramino gets grabbed from behind by one of the lepers.
I think it was Jose.
I think it was it Jose? I don't know. I don't remember if he had a weird. Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
as I say, I don't remember if he had a weird hand.
Yeah, he was rubbing his diseased hand all over
Caramino, and
face.
he's screaming that now he's like been infected, and then Dario shows up just in time.
Yep.
And Jose shoots Caramino in the back as he's like trying to run away. They save the day. And this is where then Dario's like, we have to be back by 10 o'clock. I'll explain on the way.
I told your mom I'd have you back by 10.
But he said 6 o'clock like 3 scenes ago.
I know.
And I'm like, what the fuck? This is just like the damn thing with the 1,000 versus the 10,000 pesos thing.
So we cut back to the town, and the entire town has torches.
Oh, they are like angry mobbing toward the sanitarium.
It's like that scene from the Simpsons movie.
Mm-hmm. And you see Santo, like it cuts back to him riding his horse as fast as he can, because of course it has to be Santo that stops them.
Yep.
And he rides out in front of them and he's like, stop. And they're like, no. And then he just explains everything, and then they're like, yay!
He's just like, Caramino and his men were the thieves. Hard cut to them in the street. People are clapping,
they're
throwing
flowers. Like, literally, this is like the only hard cut in this film, I swear.
He just went from everyone with torches to everyone with flowers. It was bizarre.
Like, they just stopped. He's just like, no, it was Caramino. It wasn't the lepers. And they're just like,
okay.
Yay! Like, nothing. So they're throwing flowers at him. Santo's like, I have to be on my way back to wherever he comes from. He's got to go see the orphans, I guess. And a woman stops him in the town, and it's Lupe. And she says, is there really a cure for leprosy? And he says, yes, the soul fiends will cure them. Like, he has a weird, just like one sentence explanation, and then he just walks off screen.
He walks off screen, and we focus on Lupe.
And we focus on her face looking like hopeful,
but so confused and kind of bored.
And then, I kid you not, it goes to a black and white, like, it doesn't even say the end, does it?
No, it just cuts to credits.
It just cuts to some credits, and then, boom, done. Like,
it cuts to one screen of credits, and then we go back to the DVD menu.
Yep. It just ends. Like, the music even just cuts, and then it just ends. And I'm like, is that a mistake on the DVD, or is that actually how it ended?
So, yeah, that was Santo versus the Riders of Terror.
I liked it.
I enjoyed it. It was all right.
I liked it. So, I wasn't able to find many fun facts, but I did find one, and that apparently there is another cut of this movie that exists. And it's called the nude cut. Because there were a bunch of nude scenes that were put into the film. There is apparently another film where Santo fights vampires that also has a nude cut.
You can see some vampire wang?
No, it's tits. I think it's lady vampires.
It's still pretty good.
And there's apparently a bunch of nude scenes, and they called it, translated to English, called The Lepers and the Sex. Like, that's how it would have translated literally.
Yeah.
And apparently there's one called The Vampires and the Sex, but only one copy of each exists in a vault owned by, like, or found by, like, the director's niece.
Huh.
And they refuse to release them. And the only thing that they can think of as to why they exist is they were supposed to be for the export market, because, sexy exploitation films were in then. But I'm not sure how true this is. I was only able to find it in like one place. I have no idea, to be honest with you. I really was not able to find much of anything on this film. I couldn't find any kind of like, what was it made for? How much did it make? There's for a guy that was so prolific, not a lot of information about his movies out there, like individually out there. Yeah. But yeah, it is one of 13 different films, all of which had a supernatural theme. In fact, here I found El Vampiro El Sexo, as I was just mentioning. And yeah, it's his horror movie series, which started in 1958, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. But he has films such as Santos versus the Vampire Woman, Santo in the Hotel of Death, Santo versus the Zombies, Blue Demon, which was another name for Santo.
No, that was a different guy.
Is that a different? Oh, you're right. Yeah. That was his rival, wasn't it?
Yeah, Blue Demon was another very famous luchador.
You're right.
His son still wrestles, I think. Blue Demon Jr.
I think so. You're right. I think Blue Demon was like his big rival.
Yeah.
Because yeah, there's Blue Demon versus the Satanic Power in 1966, because he was also in films. The Diabolical Axe. Like, he had so many. Here's Santo and the Blue Demon versus the Monsters. Also,
man, I really did pick
year.
The least supernatural.
Vengeance of the Vampire Women. That's a Santo film. Santo and the Vengeance of the Mummy. I'm just like Santo and the Blue Demon versus Dracula and the Wolfman. Like, you really did pick the boring, not weird one. Santo versus Frankenstein's daughter. Like,
I thought you were about to say Frankenstein's dog.
No, Frankenstein's dog. Baron Broccola. Braccola? I'm going to go with Broccola because that sounds like broccoli and it's funnier.
Broccoli Lesnar.
Grave Robbers. Like, it... I'm kidding you not. Like, you picked the one Santo movie that was normal.
That's the one that had half-price books when I bought it.
Yeah, I know. And you bought it more for the fact that it was a Santo movie than anything.
Yeah,
you
I honestly didn't think I'd ever watch it.
I didn't think we ever would either, to be honest.
Like I said, I bought this 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, we bought it a couple of years ago because it was in like the cult classics section when I used to work there, before I got laid off. Anyway, like I said, I didn't hate this movie, but man, does it have a culture? Like, does Santo have like a culture around it? Like that whole, like, he is still masked, he is still a wrestler. In these films, he's known for being a wrestler.
Yeah.
But also fights mummies, fights bandits. Like, it's just wild. We don't have... The only thing I can think of anything near that are the Elvis Presley movies.
Yeah.
Where Elvis Presley is a singer in Hawaii or wherever, but also does stunt jumps on a jet ski. I don't know.
It would be like if in the Fast and Furious movies, Dwayne Johnson's character, Hobbs, if he was just The Rock, but still did all his stuff in the movie.
I mean,
he is, but if they were legit the same character.
I get what you mean. I was being a jerk.
I mean, he pretty much, he just is The Rock.
He just is The Rock.
Just called Hobbs.
But he's called Hobbs.
But if Hobbs was still The Rock, like, the character of the movie was still, a multi-time world champion and stuff.
Right. Or like James Bond was in a children's movie, but as James Bond. Like, I don't know. There's no way to describe it because we don't have anything like that here.
Yeah.
That I can think of other than like the Elvis Presley movies where he's the singer Elvis Presley, but also whatever else he's doing in those movies. That's the only thing I can think of even somewhat comparable. And these movies, even not just Santo, just the genre of luchas in film... There's a question mark there because I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
Was huge. I don't know that it still is, but it was a cultural phenomenon. I mean, some of these movies came out in the 50s, and I kid you not, this came out in 70. Like, there was one I found that came out in 1958 as El Santo versus the Infernal Man, which is the first of this 13-part series. So his last film appearance was Fury of the Karate Experts in 1982.
Okay.
And his earliest movie, 1952.
Okay.
Or at least the early... There's a little bit of guesswork there.
Yeah.
But it was in the 50s. So we're talking multiple decades of these movies being prolific and very popular.
Speaking of longevity, I'm looking here on prowrestling.fandom.com at El Santo's page. Mm-hmm. He made his pro wrestling debut in 1934 or 35, not quite sure.
Yeah, well, back then it'd be really hard to debut. Or I mean to record, but go on.
But the whole time he was still doing movies and stuff. He was still wrestling. He retired from professional wrestling in 1982. He had nearly a 50-year in-ring career.
And he started films in the 50s, maybe even a little...
He was wrestling for 15, 20 years
he
before his
wrestled
movies.
For a very long time. But back to this movie, I liked this movie. I thought it was actually pretty good. I mean, it wasn't. It was bad. There was a lot of bad things about it.
I thought it was all right. You liked it more than I did.
The story, I liked the story of it, but it was made so poorly. Oh boy, but as I said, I love things that are really charming. I collect Power Rangers. Power Rangers is terrible. I love it. There's a charm about it. I have a bunch of very strange old tokusatsu movies from like the 80s that make no sense that I just have because I love them. And this to me is in that same vein of like very charming, very weird, but you can't help but kind of love it.
It's endearing.
It's very endearing, and I can see myself watching more El Santo movies now that I watched this one because I've never watched them before. Yeah. And I think I could watch more. I think I could. I really liked this one.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'll watch some more with you sometime.
Okay, good. But now we have to... I'm between... 2 movies for our next episode. Mm-hmm. Because somebody, for my birthday that I just had, bought me the Space Amoeba DVD. Yeah. And I was very excited. But at the same time, we just did a foreign film. And I don't know if I want to watch Space Amoeba or The Day the Earth Stood Still. And we've done 2... I mean, we did a fantastic movie. We did a pretty good movie. And now we're going back to either a pretty good movie or another fantastic movie. Because I didn't pick a bad one. Or...
It's okay, I'll pick a bad one next time.
Oh, no, wait. Maybe I could pick a bad one. What do you think? Should we watch a really bad one, a really good one, or an okay one? That I love and think is really good.
Let's go with a bad one.
We're going to watch... Let me see what year it's from. I'm sure we can... I know we can find it because I've seen it listed before. I've always wanted to watch this movie because when I was a kid, I used to watch Animal Planet all the time. And for whatever reason, it's from 1955. And for whatever reason, I always used to see clips of this movie in like the most extreme or like top 100 animal films. We're going to watch 1955's Tarantula.
Oh, okay.
It does have a 6.5 out of 10, so it might actually be better than I think. I've never seen it. I know that we can... It's on Prime. I'm looking at it right now. I was looking to make sure we could watch it before I picked it. Even if it hadn't been, you can rent this movie for like $4 in quite a few places. But it is on Amazon Prime if anybody else wants to watch it. I'm very excited. It has Mara Corday in it.
Oh. You don't know who that is. All right, then. So join us next time when we watch Tarantula.
Yeah, we're going back to our roots. We're going back to the 1950s horror.
So that has been the show. If you want to follow and support us on Twitter, we are at It Came From 20K. On Instagram, we are It Came From 20K Pod. All these things are in the description below. You're making a face.
Oh, sorry. I was reading the gross revenue for this movie. I was reading the Wikipedia.
For Tarantula? Okay.
Sorry.
Save that for next time.
Yeah, sorry. I was just reading it. And I was like, what? This movie made that much money?
And if you're watching on YouTube, hi. Subscribe, maybe. And, share this around. Podcasts live or die by word of mouth at this point, and we are a very small podcast. But thank you, everyone who's listened this far and who's been listening to our show so far. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it.
We do. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm looking at the Wikipedia. I'm so sorry. This podcast was not made to make money. It was made to give me an excuse to watch these movies and have fun, to be honest. We are moving very soon, so that could mess up our podcast schedule. We may, in the next episode at the very beginning, say something about it because we could miss one. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. We'll keep you updated. Follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated on that. It's just, we're not sure. We're buying a house.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks unless something else happens. Again, follow us on Twitter. Keep an eye out. We'll let you know when things happen. We'll see you next time for Tarantula.
I'll know if you don't follow.
She'll know. All right. I've been Gus.
I've been Kaitlyn.
And this has been It Came From 20,000 Podcasts. And Walter has joined us. Hi, Walter. It's very good this episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.